Release the Kraken!
And welcome back, Star Trek fans. The next group of officers that we're going to take a look at in Starfleet Academy 101 is the Glory in the Kill officer group. This is the first introductory PvP style group of officers. You get these officers at a fairly low level. Some of these officers you're going to probably use more than others. Some of them are going to make really excellent below deck officers. But yeah, this is the first ever introductory PvP group. And why would you want a PvP? Well, to get more loot. More loot means more progression. Anyway, we're going to dive in, take a look at these officers, and see what we got going on. First officer we have on board is Rukor. Rukor is a command officer. As far as stats goes, she's really heavy on the attack. She's got moderate defense, and she's about as healthy as a twig. Captain's ability, Explorer Specialist. When inside an Explorer, Rukor increases the weapons damage against players by 20%. If you saw the last video, we explained how weapon damage increase works. And basically, if you're inside, say like the Turos, for example, she's going to excel as your captain's officer, or excuse me, as your captain. Her officer ability, energy boost. If the opponent is a player, Rukor increases the damage made by energy weapons of the ship by an additional 20%. Based on tiering, when you first get her, this starts out at 5%, then goes from 5 to 7 to 10 to 15 and 20. Now, some of you do, some of you don't have the baby jellyfish. And of course, we have jellyfish events that come from time to time. If we were to put Rukor in the command chair, she would excel. That's going to be a total percent of 40% damage increase, and we haven't even looked at synergy bonuses yet. The second officer in this command group that we have is Vartak. Vartak is as well a command style officer. As far as his stats go, he has a healthy amount of attack, a mediocre amount of defense, and only slightly better health. As far as his captain's ability, it is a interceptor specialist. So, like Rukor, if he's in charge of, say, a Findra, he's going to increase weapon damage against other players by 20%, whereas she was explorers. And then his officer's ability is, if the opponent is a player, Vartak increases the damage made by kinetic weapons of the ship by 20%. So, like Rukor, that is a 40% total damage increase when fighting against other players. As far as how that tiers, that also tiers at a rate of 5, 7, 10, 15, and 20. The third officer in our group of Glory of the Kill is Comal. Comal? I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, Comal is an engineering officer. Look, somebody who isn't trying to be in charge. As far as his stats goes, he has a decent amount of attack, a midline amount of defense, and a subpar health rating. As far as his captain's ability, Battleship Specialist. When inside a battleship, Comal increases weapon damage against players by 20%. That's ships like the Tala, for example. That is a battleship. As far as his officer ability goes, this one's a little bit different. If the opponent is a player, Comal decreases the damage made by its kinetic weapons by 20%. As far as how this tiers, when you first get Comal, it'll be 5, then 7, then 10, then 15, and 20%. He is a what is called a mitigation officer. He, mitigates the amount of damage that you take. And the fourth officer in this particular group of officers is Vixxus. Vixxus is the first uncommon officer in this group. She is a science officer. And as you can tell, the difference between common and uncommon officers is big in stat increase. She's got an actual relatively low amount of attack for a PvP officer. She's got a healthy chunk of defense and a very decent amount of health. As far as her captain ability goes, Fake Communiques. At the beginning of each round, Vixxus has a 6% chance of delaying opponent's weapon fire by 1 round. That's every round of combat. She has a small small percentage chance of delaying weapons fire. Her officer ability is energy absorption. Vixxus decreases energy weapons damage of opponent players by 30%. And of course, when you first unlock her, this starts out at 10% and then tiers up from there to 12, 15, 20, and 30. If Rukor is the officer you want manning your jellyfish, Vixxus is the officer that you want defending you from the jellyfish, just for that damage absorption rate. Pretty good all the way around officer setup right there. The fake communiques. I don't really like this particular officer ability just because of the low percentage rate. I think it gets a little bit higher with synergy. We'll have to check that out here in a little bit. And the fifth officer in this command group that we're going to look at is Claw. Claw is also an uncommon officer. He's a command officer. Oh look, more Klingons trying to be in charge. Anyway, he is a command officer. As far as his stats goes, he has even less attack, only slightly more defense, and slightly more health. Of course, he's only at level 20, whereas Vixxus was at level 29, so that will make up quite a bit of a difference there. As far as his captain's maneuver, Claw increases the impulse speed of the ship by 25%. He's the fastest Klingon in the West. Really good chaser ship if you want to get away, or if you're trying to chase somebody down. His officer ability is critical strike. Claw increases the critical hit damage of the ship by 17%. Unless you're in a ship that actually has increased crit chance, or you have an officer, that combination to actually get your critical hit chance increased, he's not going to be a really great officer to have toting around on your ship. Makes a great captain for chasers and runners, but not a great officer. Strike ability, when you first get him, starts out at 8%, tiers up to 10%, 13%, 17%, and 20%. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Cross. Cross is an actual epic level officer, the first epic that we're going to talk about in this particular video series. He's also part of the Glory and the Kill group, and he is a science officer. As far as stats goes, he has an extremely healthy amount of attack and a pitiful amount of defense and health. As far as his captain's ability goes, the Art of War. Cross decreases the effectiveness of the opponent's captain's maneuver by 20%. So, Vixxus, for example, increases damage by 20%. I don't know the math right off the top of my head right at the moment with synergy, but Cross would basically negate that initial 20%. Officer ability, know the enemy. Cross decreases the attack, defense, and health of all officers on the bridge of the opponent's ship by 40%. When you first unlock Cross, this is 20%, then 30, 40, 50, and 60. At lower level PvP, Cross is a devastating officer to have on a PvP ship. And the reason for that is because in the below deck videos, as we discussed, you want to get officer stats up in order to increase the effectiveness of your ship. At lower levels, when those stats are really hard to come by, Cross has the ability to basically turn your big, fancy, shiny whatever into a wiffle bat by actually decreasing the overall attack values of your ship in combat. Now we're going to take a look at the PvP crew in the handy Fendra that we have available. I'm going to pretend we're going to be going into PvP and we're going to be fighting against a battleship, for example. We've got Cross as our captain, of course, and with all the synergy and bonuses and everything, that brings Art of War to 50%. That's enough to really wreck somebody's day. It just is. And of course, kinetic boost. We're in our Fendra. We're going to be increasing that damage by 20%. We're going to be decreasing the stats on the opponent's ship by 40%, or on their bridge at least. And we're going to be resisting kinetic damage. Battleships, of course, have a mixture of kinetic and energy weapons. Mainly they're big kinetic weapons. So, nerf their ship, nerf their officers, increase our damage, and increase our resistance. Now, if for example we wanted to, I don't know, play with our jellyfish, we'd want to put Vixxus in the chair, and then let's use Cross as an officer, and who else? Oh, there we go. Maybe. Now we're going to pretend we're in our jellyfish. Now we have the 35% damage increase against players when inside an explorer. We still have the officer nerfing, an additional 20% damage, and then our kinetic resistance. And you see what happens there, 20% plus 35%. It's 55% energy damage increase against other players. And that's why she is such a lovely officer to have on your ship when you're running a jellyfish during those low-level PvP events. And that's about all we've got time for Starfleet Academy 101 Part 3, Glory in the Kill. Nice introductory into PvP within Star Trek Fleet Command. Went over a couple different crew combinations, maybe gave you a few ideas on how to play with these crews. If you have suggestions, any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you found this video informative and helpful and like to see more, hit subscribe. We'll get to the next video as quick as we can. And until next time, as always, stay safe, have fun, and good luck, and we'll see you out there.